Also streamed on our Facebook. After about a month or two hiatus, we're back and we'll start our fall shows along with producer Alden Iwani. Our very special guest today is Highland 2025 Hall of Fame inductee Marty Peterson. Marty, great to have you on the show.
Thank you for inviting me.
You know, Marty, I want to read your accolades. You went in with the class, and I want to read them too because you went in with a great class. There were some outstanding athletes there, and I think that's one of the things for me, as the chairperson of the committee. We've got a great committee that works with us too. They're great too. But you went in with Carol Hudson Knobber from 1973, Glenn Russell from 1981. Carol was field hockey and track and field. Glenn was football and baseball. John Scott East from 1981 track and field. Dan Hayes, 1964 basketball. Chuck Clausen, 1958 football and wrestling. Jim Zanos from 1981 football and track and field. Bob McCorkle from 1959 football, basketball, baseball. Jack Stroud, football and baseball. Ted Russell of tennis. And Bobby Gibbs was our special recognition as an assistant coach and teacher there at Highland. Marty, what did that honor mean to you? It was actually one of our committee members, Marie Smith, who nominated you and dug up all your stuff, man. You know, the articles and stuff. Marie was a sleuth and dug it all up. What did that honor mean to you to be inducted into our Highland Hall of Fame?
Well, it was an honor to be included with those people. They're people that had went on to have careers that were, way more successful than I. But, was a great event, great honor, and proud to be a member of the Hall of Fame.
You know, it's our third class that we've inducted into our Highland Hall of Fame. And I think I told you, you and I told you I was a freshman at St. Pius when you played, and I watched that game against Albuquerque High, and of course have heard of you. But I got to know you a little bit better, since our three conversations, and we share that we both played for Tom Hogue. We both played for Highland, and there was so much more I wanted to know about you because you put up some numbers, man. There's no doubt about it. And I told Joe Bradley today, who your former teammate, who's a very good friend of mine, you're unassuming. You're quiet about it. And Coach Hogue alluded to that in an article back in 1977. You were a leader. He said people looked at you. You didn't seek out to be a leader, but by your example. He said that by the way you played, you were the leader of that team in 1977. There's no question about it.
Yeah, I was somewhat of a role player. I was a leader, but I was a role player. I wasn't the guy that was taking shots from the outside or, bringing the ball up the court or anything like that. I got a ton of rebounds, so I was, it's extra points when you get an offensive rebound and put it back in without having to have a possession again. And, you get a rebound, a defensive rebound, and you're stopping the other team, in their tracks. And I think that's where I added more than actually, originating a play. I was pretty good on the open court, like fast breaks. But, I was a great defensive player, great rebounder. I fought hard for the ball. And, it worked out for me and the team.
What's the anticipation, we'll get to that, of the rebounding. Teammates in 1980, Ken Mosley had said you worked with him about rebounding. And the guy, Ken Mosley, was a fierce rebounder, man. And he told me that you had taught him about angles where the shot comes off. Right. And I still see him ripping those boards, man. That guy was a fierce rebounder, one of the best rebounders I ever saw. There's no doubt about it. But you mentioned, I want to read some of your accolades here. You're a nominee, your nomination, and then you got to speak at the Highland Hall of Fame ceremony. In 1977, you were Tribune Basketball Player of the Year, first team All-City, first team All-District, All-State team, North-South All-Star team, leading rebounder in the city, top 5 scoring leader in the city, school rebounding for record. And you asked if that still stands. I would think it does, but I don't know about the record since Tom left. There's a lot of coaches. Tom Hogue left. There's a lot of coaches after that. High point scorer for Highland. You averaged 20 points a game, and I believe 14 rebounds a game. Highland High School Most Valuable Athlete in 1977. Got a scholarship to play at Yavapai Junior College and Loyola Marymount on scholarship. We'll get to Loyola Marymount later because you mentioned playing against Arizona State in that lineup that they had. But, one game against Bernalillo, this stood out to me, one of the articles that I read about you, 25 points, 20 rebounds, 7 block shots, and 7 assists. And, that's impressive in any era. You were player of the week, and I read that. Those statistics. I don't know if you remember that game against Bernalillo, but I think that's what you were talking about, the way that you rebounded. And I talked to Joe Bradley and Oscar Huber, your former teammate, who also played in the championship game. He was a junior. And they said around the paint, that's where you got your money, man. You made your living around the paint. But anticipation for rebounding, and you talk about, and you're 6'2", man. You're about eye level to me. I'm 6'1", so it's not as if you're like 6'5" or 6'6". You're not, but the anticipation. Coach Hogue said it mesmerized him. He said in the article, and I had to read that twice because I never. When Coach Hogue's a man of few words, right? He's not a guy that gets mesmerized by much. But when I read that, I'm like, I had to read it again, and probably the third time, because like I told you, I played for him 2 years. I don't know if we ever mesmerized him. We probably, other words to describe. But talk a little bit about the anticipation as far as rebounding, because that's rebounding the way you rebounded at your size. Talk a little bit about how you made your living inside the paint.
Well, yeah. A person that's 6'2" shouldn't lead the city in rebounding, right? I found a way to get around people. I, kind of anticipated where it would come off. Things come off at a different angle than it doesn't always come straight back. As much time as not, it goes off on an angle, and I just found a way to get there before the other people. I did have something that I did where I would get the ball with one hand and kind of rip it away really hard, and I could control it with my other hand and not lose it. And it gave me a little extra height, I think, and got it away from other people before they could grab it with two hands.
That's a lot of rebounding. You mentioned that. I think it might have been 16 rebounds a game. I'm not sure, but that's a lot of rebounding. And you have a technique. When I thought about undersized rebounders, I always thought about Dennis Rodman. Dennis Rodman was an incredible rebounder at 6'6". He anticipated the second or third jump when people are tired. That's when he was at his strongest and grabbing that rebound. And so I think Ken Mosley said this to me, that you had taught him angles, but also to box out like crazy. And Ken did a lot of that. He may have rebounded a little bit different than you, but he took your lessons to task, to heart, believe me, because like I still see him soaring above the rim to get in, ripping them. He's a very aggressive rebounder, but you definitely had a quick jump, is what I'm told too, off the floor. A quick jump is what you had, I'm told.
Yeah. Well, yeah, on the defensive side, definitely blocking out is super important. It's different than when you're trying to get an offensive rebound, when you're trying to not let the guy in front of you block you out. So, it's kind of it's double strategy you have to have there.
I could see where, your name was up there. I don't know if it's still up there. Did you look and see if it was still up there as far as rebounding? I didn't look and see it.
I looked. Yeah, I looked on the wall for the way they had it, back in my day, and it wasn't up on the wall like that anymore. So
they've done quite a lot of. I've got to ask you this because I drove up to the ceremony and I saw you walking around, and you hadn't been back to Highland in many years. It's been a while since you've been back there, and I saw you walking over there by the main campus over there, and that's how we met. Now Highland's a different school now than when you went there, and then when I went there. What did you think about at least the area you went and walked around a little bit, but the gym? You told me the other day walking down the hall, and it's different now because they remodeled in 2019. What was your thoughts about the Highland as far as to what it looks like now?
Well, I was very impressed by the gym. That looked really nice. And some of the new buildings they had that they put up were really nice too. It was kind of sad to hear that the attendance had gone down so much because of the district changes that they did. And I've heard they've gone down, one level in as far as the high schools go there in the state. And that part was a little distressing to me, but the buildings really brought me back. A lot of fences up there, though. I don't know what that's all about, but it's unusual to have that many fences. They were everywhere.
Yeah, they are. It's a different area now. We mentioned that when you went there was a lot of businesses around Highland that aren't there anymore. And you know what, though? Still got much love for the Hornets, always, That's why I'm a member of the Alumni Association, and we do our work on the Highland Sports Hall of Fame. You could have played. You mentioned this, too. We got about okay, we're going to take a break, Marty. When we come back, we'll talk more about your Highland High career there. We're going to talk about the championship game in 1977 after these messages on the Sports Desk.
Does go this time. The throw is a good one, and that's going to get him. What a throw by the catcher. 2-1. Look to the air. Hit pretty well to left field. Back to
He lost it.
He looks up. It's gone.
Forget all about talking about small ball. That was a long ball, boy.
That was not small ball.
That just kept going.
That's in the right field, down the line.
That's a killer.
Into the corner.
That's a killer.
1-run score, 2-run score. Here comes the third run. The throw to the plate is not in time.
That hurts.
Ground ball up along third. Nice play by Cover. Goes to second one. Back to first. Dug out by Chambers. In the gap to right center field. No one's going to get this one. Picked up by the center fielder Jones. The throw in the second. They got him. What a play and what a tag.
That's tough. Left field, that is. Back.
Payne going back. It is gone. Sean Green, with a home run. Payne ran out of room. It's a home run to left for Green. And it's 1-0. The liner right at the first baseman, throws in the third, and then he got him. The second baseman making a great play. I said first baseman. Stumpy, second baseman. Fly ball, that's hit well to right field. Back goes Ronaldo. It is gone.
Tear open the sky here. We got a home run in the first game, and now we've got one here in the second. This one was just tied up, and Carter Brown says goodbye.
ABA leading, but 2 runs on base, and that is drilled to left field, and this is going to be gone. touches them all, a 3-run blast. And all of a sudden, Inland Southwest with the lead. He's got the middle of the order coming up. Will Van Wee, the 3-man. Will Van Wee will ground it, and this is going to be a race to the bag, and he got him! How about that? What a play by the shortstop, Travis Curry. That's not even your third baseman.
No, and it doesn't matter how you get them. It matters that you get them, and that was some heads-up play because, I mean, almost always you're thinking,
well, I'm going to the frontier, walking to the cashier, order up a root beer and a number one. Cover it with green stuff, one scoop is not enough. Find a booth is real tough, back by the Duke. Meet my family, meet my friends in the quirkiest restaurant I have ever been. All of Albuquerque's favorite spot, it's the Frontier Restaurant.
The Frontier Restaurant is a proud supporter of ProView Networks.
We've been trained, conditioned, and rewarded for doing more. But people weren't designed for all that doing. Our bodies need to settle into nothing from time to time. Into nothing at all. In a world obsessed with doing more, we invite you to undo.
Welcome back to the Sports Desk live on Comcast Channel 26, also streamed on our Facebook page. I'm your host, Ed Nunez. Our very special guest, Highland Sports Hall of Fame inductee for 2025, the former Highland basketball star, Marty Peterson. Marty, again, great to have you.
Thank you.
You know, Marty, I've got a quote from one of your teammates, Joe Bradley. I asked him to give you a quote about you. He played with you. Marty put our whole team on his back and took us to the championship. We all played in the biggest game of our lives because of his incredible determination, just a class act in every way. And that's from, a good friend of mine and a teammate of yours. And, I want to ask you about that game. And there's some great pictures. When I saw him, man, I was like, wow, I read the paper all the time. You're the Tribune Player of the Year, and they don't have the Tribune here anymore. But that season, you mentioned, talk to me a little bit about that 77 team, because you said you thought that, it's you and Marty Sponberg, there was 6'2", they didn't have a lot of height. You lost a couple of players along the way. But talk to us in dropping the championship game to Albuquerque High, 55-49 in front of 16,000 fans. And we'll talk a little bit about the season first and then the championship game.
Yeah, so the season started out slow for us. We weren't doing well at the beginning of the season. And then all of a sudden, about halfway through the season, something just clicked, and when we started winning. But we had to fight for every game. We had some battles to, get through, win our district, and to get through a couple days games in the state tournament. And we had games with people that it never seemed like there was but 2 or 4 point differences during the whole game. I can remember one game was with Sandia. It was a war that we had, and we weren't blowing teams out by any means. But I have to say we're probably underdogs going into at least the state tournament, and got away to the finals. And the final game, they were a good team. I mean, they beat us. It was close, but they beat us, and we just couldn't get it done on that day. That's one thing that I look back on that I wish I could have worked a little harder or changed something. But we didn't get it done, and hats off to them. They played a good game.
You know what? I got to ask you. When I remember, I was there. 16,000 fans. Talk a little bit about that atmosphere that night, man. It was electric. It really was. Talk a little bit about the atmosphere.
Oh yeah, yeah. You play in front of 16,000 fans. You're in a different world than you're used to. It was very exciting with all the people there. You know what a great environment playing. You know at that stadium, the pit, incredible.
You know, it's kind of funny at the Highland Hall of Fame ceremony, Coach Jim Holzman, who had coached baseball at Highland years ago, was there for two of our inductees. I didn't even see him. I don't know if you got a chance to talk to him. He was buried in the back, and you know, of course, I would have acknowledged him, but he was at the ceremony, and of course, he remembers what a great player you were, and of course, your teammates Dave Duggan, Richard Valenzuela, Oscar Huber, Jim Herbert, Joe Bradley, Ray Rodriguez, Gerald Mays, Marty Sponberg, the aforementioned Marty Sponberg. So yeah, you know, it was a heck of an effort by Highland and Coach Hogan. I think people will forget. I had to look that up. Made finals in 65, 66, losing to Hobbs. Lost to Hobbs in 69. Beat Albuquerque High in 72. Lost to Las Cruces in 75. Team you were on as well. You got to play a couple quarters as a sophomore, and then lost to Albuquerque High in 77. So I think people who Tom Hogue, who made our Highland Hall of Fame last year, people might have forgot about that, about him. You know, I want to ask you this too, Marty. You played in the North-South game, but you played in an all-star game against the Russians here in Albuquerque, which I believe Coach Hogue was your coach for that all-star game. Tell us a little bit about that game.
Yeah, he was coach of the year that year.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah. So he got to be the coach, and you know, it was a kind of strange environment again. You know, like almost like the state final game. You know, a lot of pomp and circumstance around that event. Junior all-star team from Russia comes over, and they're traveling around the U.S. and you know, we got to play them. I think they had a couple other games elsewhere in the U.S. But what a great experience. You know, we before they played both the national anthems, and then we had medals that we exchanged, and you know, great fun game, and had some very talented players from the Southwest that were, you know, on our team. Most notable was Tom Chambers, who ended up playing for the Clippers and starting for them. He was from Colorado at that time. But, you know, great experience.
Also played for the Phoenix Suns, and if people remember, that guy scored 20,000 NBA points, man. And had a dunk over Mark Jackson. That guy was a heck of a player. He used to come over here and torture the Lobos because he played for Utah. You know, that year on the All-City team, it's you, Stan Sherrod of Valley, Royce Blackshear of Manzano, Monty Grisham of Rio Grande, who, believe it or not, just lives down the street from me, Billy McKinley from Sandia. And Billy McKinley, wow, that guy was a heck of a – you guys had battles. You had Highland, I remember. Yeah. So that was your all-city team that year. You know, Marty, you also talked about you had played baseball and did some track. You didn't do it your senior year, but you probably could have. You know, you were the high jumper, right? You were a high jumper.
Yeah, in track, I did high jump, and I threw the javelin, and you know, basketball, you know, gave me some leap. Had to get used to doing the flop. Fosbury flop.
People forget.
Yeah. It was you know, I could get up there, but I was working on the technique to do that. And then I threw the javelin and did really well in that, because back in my junior high day, I was a pitcher for the baseball team at Monroe Junior High. And so anyways, I did that my junior year. When the senior year came around, there was all-star games that you actually had to practice for. So I really couldn't do both at the same time. So I you know, elected not to do track again. But had it not been for that, I would have done track again in my senior year.
You know what, Neil, I have no doubt you definitely would have excelled at that as well. You just got that athletic talent. There's no doubt about it. Talk a little bit about after Highland. You played basketball at Yavapai Junior College and then Loyola Marymount. Talk a little bit about your experience at Yavapai, and then we'll get into Loyola Marymount because I want to mention that game that you played against Arizona State. Talk a little bit about your experience at Yavapai.
Okay. So Yavapai is in Prescott, Arizona, small town, nice small school. Learned a lot there academically. The coach there was actually Highland High School alumni, Dave Brown.
Really?
Yeah, and that's how I ended up going there. Is Coach Ho talked to Dave Brown, and they invited me out there for a recruiting trip. And I could have gone to a few other places. I think I had 3 or 4 offers, and but just that seemed to be the best fit for me because I could go there and be able to play right away and start right away, where some other places I probably wouldn't have, and that was really attractive to me. Plus, Arizona had a really good competitive league for junior colleges, and good competition, good school. I could play right away. I got to start right away, and real good experience there. And my last year there, I ended up being all Southwest for junior college. So
then it was on the Loyola Marymount after that. Tell us a little bit about your experience there, because there's a team that you played against. You mentioned at the Hall of Fame ceremony, and also at the Elks Club later. We had the little get together. To talk a little bit about playing for Loyola Marymount.
Yeah, so in my first year at Loyola, we ended up winning our conference, and that gave us an automatic bid to the NCAA playoffs. And we ended up being a 16 seed and got matched up against number 1, obviously, and it was Arizona State. And it turns out that Arizona State was the host of the regionals that year, so we had to play them in their gym. And they were a loaded team. I mean, as loaded a team as there's ever been in college basketball. They had Alton Lister, who was 7 feet tall, Kurt Nymphius, I think he was 6'11" or 6'10", yep. Sam Williams, I think he was 6'8", but he could jump out of the gym. His nickname was Slam.
Slam and Sam.
Yeah. And then they had Byron Scott and Lafayette Lever. So all 5 of those guys the next year, they're starting in the pros for different pro teams. It's just a loaded team. So, it wasn't much of a game. We had our center was 6'6", maybe 6'7", and then everybody else was after that. But they were a really good team. But it was a great experience, winning our conference, getting the opportunities to play in the NCAAs, playing as essentially a pro team. Even though we lost, it was a great experience. And Loyola Marymount was a great school. I was lucky to get in there. Being all Southwestern junior college and coming in, at least second in our conference helped out, and got to go there. Got playing time right away. My first year, I came off the bench, but I was like 6th man. My senior year, I started there. But great experience, great school, great education. It was a great opportunity for me.
Marty, you still keep in shape, as you mentioned. You still do a lot of things. We're going to have to wrap it up. But Marty Peterson, 2025 Highland Sports Hall of Fame inductee. We really appreciate you joining us and sharing more of your story from Highland and Loyola Marymount, Yavapai playing against the Russians here. Thank you so much for being our guest.
Okay, thanks for inviting me, and thanks for everything you're doing for Hall of Fame too, for Highland.
No, Marty, I'll tell you what, man, listen to all these Highland stories of the past. Sometimes I get goosebumps at some of these stories that I'm hearing. I'm like, wow. So no, it's a lot. Sometimes it's overwhelming because we have so many athletes. I'm thinking, what about this person? But all we can deal with is what's in front of us, and we'll take care, class after class. That's all we can do. For producer Alden Iwani, I'm Ed Nunez. We'll see you next week on the Sports Desk.